the strangest things I've ever met. But you can bet before we do, Mr. I make a more out of you. Oh hey, my microphone is on. Well, I guess, hi. I'm sorry for that. I guess. But hello, hi everyone. I just couldn't contain myself for that for the chapter title right there. And I forgot to mute my microphone. Hopefully it wasn't that hearable, because I was not close to the mic at all. Let me sit down properly. Because today we are gonna do two chapters, because these are a little bit less words than the last ones. And welcome. You can hear me, you can see me, right? Everything should be fine. I don't know what happened to the OBS this time. I know, well, I know that there was a little bit of stream key change. I don't know why it happened, but it's there. Let's see. I'm trying to find the level that we might need for the music. Obviously lower that on. I mean, hopefully not. It would have been already blocked. I obviously didn't use the original one. It's just an instrumental. So it should be fine, I guess. If not, then I'm just gonna mute that part. I might actually just mute that part because my singing was there as well. Or maybe that's why it's not gonna be ruined. But yeah, everything is fine, it seems. We have two of them actually having some Pokemon. Let's just simply continue where we were before. Make a mon out of you. We can lower the background a little bit. And let's start! Chapter 15, Make a mon out of you. As they crested the hill, Casey stopped and called back to her new friends. Welcome to the Lake of Rage! Team RWBY and their little friends were treated to the sight of a beautiful forest lake glittering in the afternoon light. It was clear, and still enough to see the reflections of clouds drifting across the sky. Never no boats to be seen. But on the distant southern shore, they could see a few wooden piers reaching out into the water, and a few people walking around or sitting on the edges. Oh wow! It's so pretty! RWBY said, grinning at the thought of camping somewhere so nice. Seems fairly idyllic for a name like that. Why mused. I assume there's a story there? Yup, Casey said, grinning widely. Local legends say that this was originally just a dinky little pond until some of the resident Magikarp managed to evolve and expand into place with a hyper brim or a few. I might have messed up the place. It's the Rage of Lake is the Magic Carp one, not the Kyogre one. What is the Kyogre place called then? It's a lake as well. None of the trainer's companions bothered admitting they had no idea what any of that meant. They headed down to the slope, seeking an appropriate campsite. On the northwest shore, there were plenty of clearings within a short walk of the water's edge, but far enough back not to be unpleasantly soggy. While there was no one else around for the time being, there were plenty of signs that this was a popular site for camping. Setting up camp was uneventful. Tents went up, sleeping bags were unrolled, the fire pit was established. Finally, Casey stood before Team RWBY proudly and announced that she was going to introduce them to her team. 6 Pokeballs flashed open in short order, and suddenly they were joined by a menagerie of huge, powerful beasts. That is a word I only know because of Tales of Berseria. Meganium was a long-necked saurian, pale green, with a collar of massive pink flower petals ringing her neck. She trailed cheerfully, her expressive eyes shining as she smiled pleasantly at her trainer's new friends. Just to be... Meganium, I think, is the Gen 2 upgrade? Yeah, it's the Bayleaf upgrade, Bayleaf evolution. There we go. Here is Meganium. I can show these. These are fine. They don't have to be big. Pidgeot was a tremendous bird, standing nearly 5 feet tall and with a massive wingspan. With a massive wingspan, he had a long streamer-like crest that trailed back from his head and stretched all the way back to his bright red tail feathers. His glare was intense, but seemed to be more an artifact of being a bird of prey than an indication of his mood. Raticate? Obviously, we know most of the players who played Pokemon or watched the series know that. Know the Gen 1 Pokemons. But those for those who don't know. And I guess this is the Alolan version. Raticate was much friendlier than the one Weiss had encountered at the ranch. Her massive incisors visible to a smile rather than a snarl. She was immediately taken a shine to whisper, and the tiny psychic was comfortably perched atop her head. Beedrill was a bit more standoffish. He perched in a tree nearby, watching the group, but remaining separate from it. Electabuzz was a little harder to categorize. Yeah, I can guess why. A bipedal tiger shape. Tiger stripe ape cat. Oh, there is not an R in that. I always used an R for some reason. It's Electabuzz. It should be. There we go. I always thought that he had an R after the T. Octopus was a little harder to categorize. Bipedal tiger-striped ape cat. He had a pair of little antennae on his head, and carried with electricity. He was exuberant and unrestrained, often booming with a loud laughter and swinging his heavily muscled arms in a wise gestures, sometimes without checking that there wasn't anything to it. And finally, there was Casey's newest teammate, Whooper. The little blue salamander. Tink had a fairly blank, if cheerful expression, and didn't seem to react much at all to his surroundings. Most of the time. Takeshy tried to strike up a conversation, wanting to establish there were no hard feelings for the battle he had lost, but hadn't really had any luck. Whooper just didn't seem to notice much. Introductions and sharing stories about how Casey had met and befriended them all. It uploaded the revealing sun night. It was agreed that training would begin properly in the morning. Yes, in the morning. Blake leaned back against the tree, comfortably perched up almost 20 feet above the ground. The moon was full, and she was enjoying the novelty of seeing an intact lunar body in the sky. It reflected perfectly on the glassy surface of the lake, and it lit the night more brightly than any night she had ever seen on Remnant. Of course, with her eyes, even the faint light of the stars was enough to see perfectly by. And speaking of which, Blake turned her head, looking off to the left, and slightly below her branch. "You don't need to be shy." For a moment there was no response, but then an empty patch of air rippled, and suddenly a pair of gleaming eyes were staring back at her. Ghastly, no longer trying to hide, hovered up until it was on Blake's level. She raised an eyebrow at the puff of purple fog, a faint smile edging its way onto her face. "You've been following us since we left the mansion, haven't you?" It wasn't a question, and Ghastly didn't try to deny it. "And you were the one to catch that dog at the ranch?" Ghastly grinned. So did Blake. "Thanks for that. Are you still trying to find out how I keep seeing through illusions?" The ghost type considered the question for a moment before moving in a bubbling motion in midair. Blake interpreted that as a yes, but that's not what I'm here. "Fair enough. It's actually pretty simple. I didn't see through the illusions." Ghastly quirked his own eyebrow, which was pretty impressive considering he was just a set of eyes and a mouth in the middle of a dark haze. "Ghastly? I have perfect night vision, much better than other humans, technically too. When I looked around in the mansion, I didn't see a dark, shadowy ruin. I saw a perfectly well-lit ruin, but the illusions you and your friends used were crafted to blend in with the dark, shadowy surroundings, so I could see large patches of space that just looked wrong, not matching the rest of the room as I saw it all. I couldn't see through them, but I could tell at a glance that what were illusions and what weren't. And any that were off to the side or tucked away in a corner were obviously where one of you were hiding." She smiled at the gobstruck look. "If you used those illusions on me somewhere sunny or well lit, they would have worked just fine." The two fell into a companionable silence for a time, Blake watching the moon, Ghastly wondering why it felt like there was more to the explanation than that. Why did she have such a good night vision? Why did she start to say better than humans? Eventually Blake spoke up again. "You wanted to travel with us, right? Like Torchic and Whisper have joined us?" "Ghastly!" "Alright then, try not to scare Young too badly, okay? Unless she's being annoying." "Yes, Ghastly." No promises. Oh god. Yang began to stir in her sleeping bed, a joke cracking on, escaping her as she began to slow, painful journey to wakefulness. The sunlight falling over her face was hurting her eyes, even closed, as she grumbled and tried to squirm deeper in her bag to get away. Suddenly, a shadow fell over her, as someone took pity and blocked the evil brightness. Yang sighed, relaxing a little. Thanks. Ghastly! Yang's eyes snapped open. After Yang had finished throwing her feet over a sudden and apparently permanent addition of Ghost to the team, Casey had gathered her students into a group, standing before them like a coach, giving a pre-game speech. Hands clasped behind her back. The veteran trainer paced back and forth, either unaware of ignoring the inherent silliness of a petite 13-year-old playing drill sergeant to a quartet of older teens. Okay, time to start training 101. First things first, let's see what you already know. We will start really easy. Vice? Casey snapped, pointing at the pale girl. Under league rules, what are the maximum number of Pokemon each trainer can use in a battle? Vice blinked. There is a maximum? She asked before she could catch herself. Casey stared blankly for a moment. 6. The max is 6. Goes without the maximum battles. Maximum battles would go on way too long. She coughed and turned to the next girl. Ruby, how many regional gym badges do you need to compete in that region's league tournament? Ruby stiffened, shifted looking from side to side, as she struggled to find an answer. 6? 8. Casey turned to a bemused glance on Yang and Blake. Ha ha ha! Say that to Gary, who has 10 badges. Right? I still remember that mess up from Gary's side. Ah, I already have 10 badges. Is there any point in quizzing you two? Nope. Yang chirped, smiling broadly and without any hint of embarrassment. Blake simply shrugged. Casey sighed and rummaged through her bag, pulling out a heavily vetted handbook, the cover proclaiming Pokemon League Rules and Regulations, Silver Conference Edition. Okay, looks like we are really starting really basic. Yep. At the first glances, they didn't even know what Pokemon was. Okay, so the best way I found to train is to use an exercise 2 or more Pokemon can do together, so they each get something out of it. Casey said. For example, Tochi is tough and stubborn enough that he keeps trying to just tank everything and push through. Ha! What do you know? Sounds like how I fight, Yang boasted. It's a good skill to have, but he really needs to get in the habit of dodging more often. Yeah, Yang does too. On the other hand, most of Meganium's opponents lately have been her size, or even bigger, and she's out of practice aiming at little agile targets, so... you want Tochi to try not to be your Flavodino's target? Yep, Meganium, give us a ring, will you? The serpent thrilled, and a pair of green vine-like tendrils extended from beneath her flowery collar. She drew a circle in the dusty ground with them. Across about 10 feet across. Without prompting, Tochi ran into the middle of the impromptu training ground, chirping a challenge to the much larger grass type. Are you sure this is safe? Vice asked, cradling whisper, and frowning at the crude setup. Ah, don't worry. Okay, see, assures her. Meganium is going to be using grass moves against the fire type, and while we present all that powerful move, anyway, it's perfectly safe. Meganium lashed her tendrils at Torchic, who dodged a bit too late and took the hit solidly. The foot-top bird was launched out of the ring at speed, slammed into the tree, and fell to the ground. I'm okay as soon as the forest stops spinning. Casey coughed sheepishly. Forgiven by you of safe. She turned her embarrassed Meganium. Meganium mostly to avoid looking at Vice or Yang. I said Vine Whip, not Power Whip. Sorry. We need a training montage song, don't we? That's not one. Sure. No. Let's not do that. There. Here's another good training combo. One with less potential for accidents. Casey back onto Eradicate and Grassley. Normal type attacks don't work on ghost types. That means Eradicate can throw all the attacks she wants Grassley's way without worrying about hurting him. And how does playing Dartboard help him? Blake asked. By being the hardest hit Dartboard he can. See, normal types are also immune to ghost type moves. So Grassley gets to get creative, launching ambushes from behind illusions. And Eradicate gets to practice tracking through illusions. The rules are no living, no clearing, and no hiding behind anything solid, like a tree or one of us. Illusions are the only defense. Eradicate count 10 after Grassley hides, then take him down. Grassley grinned and promptly vanished. Eradicate patiently counted off the time, then stalked off after him in what would prove to be the spookiest game of tag ever. Okay, so from what you've told me, your Zubat mostly just had close range attacks, other than Supersonic and Confuse Ray. So Pidgeot is going to help him learn something to give him some more ranged options. Yeah, more ranged options are always good, although it's funny watching enemies hit themselves too. Yeah, that's always hilarious. But what's even better is waiting for the confusion to wear off and nailing them with something big just as they regain their senses. So anyway, Pidgeot's been practicing with Air Slash, so he's going to teach the basics to Zubat. Sorry Nox, I forgot. He probably can't manage to move that strong yet, but it's really just a bigger version of Air Cutter, so it should be... Whoosh! Whoa! Ah! What? Or is it a bat? Dud! Rap! All those random noises. God, aim out over the lake, Pidgeot. Watch your back stop. Sorry. Casey? Is that my arm or your leg? Is that my arm or your leg? Things have stopped falling, or am I just being kind? Wait, what happened? Did they got launched by Pidgeot? I guess that sounds like it. Casey frowned thoroughly at the tiny Pokemon sitting in Vice's lap. Okay, I admit I'm not sure what to do for her. I never trained a psychic type or fairy type, and she is so young, I'm not sure what kind of physical training would work. Maybe practicing precision with teleport? Maybe later, Vice said, setting her Pokemon on the ground and rising to her feet. She keeps insisting that she wants to learn to fight the way I do, so I suppose now is a good time to start her on the basics. Yay! Gonna fight like big sis! Casey could only watch with bemused grin as Vice took Whisper off to the side, drew a rapier, and began teaching basic forms to the Foot-Top Fairy, who was listening with rapt attention and using a stick in an attempt to mimic her. Casey stared. There really was a anything else she could do. Surely it had been her idea for two of her new friends to test battle, see that they were on the practical side of things, but this wasn't what she was expecting. Ready, Blake? Yang called from her end of the field. Her arms were encased in a pair of metal gauntlets and had expanded from the bracelet she was wearing. Always, Blake answered calmly. They are gonna fight each other. Isn't that the Pokemon? I shaded a sword in one hand, and its sheath, which had its own grip and what looked like a sharpened edge, in the other. Toxic and Gasly, instead of being out on the field in front of their respective trainers, were sitting on the sidelines with everyone else. RWBY, Zubat, upon realizing what was about to happen, had called all of Casey's Pokemon to pause their own training and come to watch. Toxic looked ecstatic at the opportunity to see his new trainer fight, while Gasly looked bemused. Whisper was watching attentively as well, though she had grumbled little that Weiss wasn't fighting. Okay, so we start on the count of... Now! Blake interrupted, starting forward with starting speed. Casey jerked upright in alarm, not expecting the sudden start to the crash. Blake was faster than she would have expected any human could be. Well, she isn't. Moving so fast that she seemed to leave an afterimage behind her, and suddenly Blake reached Yang, and the blonde's fist punch passed through her, and she dissolved into shadows. The afterimage slashed at Yang with its sword, and it rang against the prowler's armored fist as she parried it. Yang counterattacked, her fist rocketing towards Blake's face, but the swordman threw herself into the left, leaving behind an afterimage again, but this time it was the afterimage that was struck and dissolved away. Casey was glad she hadn't blinked, she might have missed it. She still didn't dare blink, and the continuous clash of blade and gauntlet had taken a rhythmic quality, and she didn't want to miss a second. Also, I hear the trash collectors again. They like to stop right in front of my window. Hopefully that's not too loud. Then, partner, what's getting into you? Yang said with a grin, as she kept pace with Blake's assault. She wouldn't have been able to match Blake's speed normally, but she had learned to battle in Inferno style over the monster as teammates. Letting you have the initiative never goes well, Blake huffed, keeping the pressure on as Gumball's shroud flickered out again and again. Well, then I guess I better take it, Yang roared. One half of Amber's Celica erupted, and Yang shot forwards with boosted speed, driving her elbow into Blake's guts, but she managed to slip away and leave another copy to take the hit. Yang burst forward, pursuing the rear Blake relentlessly. It was the brunettes' turn to be on the defensive, as she struggled to open the distance from her sparring partner. Fire explosions detonated around the nimble faunas, but she managed to constantly keep one step ahead of her opponent's attack. On the sideline, Toxic was cheering wildly, unable to contain his excitement. Gasly, on the other hand, had his mouth hanging open, and was staring at the battle before him in shock. Casey knew how he felt. Her team was likewise staring, unable to believe the display of human martial prowess before them. Bounding backwards, Blake did something to her sword, and the blade folded in on itself, pointing at the right angle from the hilt. Casey narrowed her eyes. The sword actually now looked like a... crack. Okay, now her sword was gone. Her sword was gone, and Yang fists were guns, and Yang used her gun fist as rocket engines. Yeah, that's RWBY. And Blake just shot Yang in the face at close range 4 times with her sword. Okay, that happened. The first 3 bullets bounced off at Yang's face, barely making her flinch. The force had more of a reaction as it caught her right in the mouth, but she just hacked and carved the bullet out like it was nothing. Gah! I think that fight all day. While Yang was distracted, Blake stretched her arm back and held the weapon in a low arc, whirling madly and trailing a long black ribbon that remained in Blake's hands. As it passed Yang's leg, the gun somehow fired again, altering its flight path and wrapping the ribbon tightly around the blonde's leg. What the... hey! Luckily, they can aim their guns even while fighting each other. It would be really dangerous to look from the sidelines, right? Especially if you are not a perfect master of your aura. At least know how to defend yourself. Blake's maneuvers through the fight had her left beneath a massive tree, and she took advantage of that. She vaulted upwards, kicking off the trunk to reach a trick bench 10 feet off the ground, and hold on the ribbon with all her might as she allowed herself to fall backwards. Jack sputtered with outrage as she was dragged off her feet into the air. Lake was straining to keep her there, the blonde being taller and heavier of the two, but she was managing. The brawler, taking her upside down from the tree, closed her eyes and took a grumbling breath, and forced herself to enunciate more clearly despite her singing mouth. Bet you think you're clever, huh? I think I have my moments, Blake answered calmly. Surrender? Nah. Jack snapped out both his fists and fired ambassador at the foreigners. Blake was too far to punch, but she had been overconfident and made the mistake of remaining within the blast zone. The blast took her off the feet, slamming against the trunk hard enough to set branches aquiver, and a few leaves to falling. Young propelled backwards by her weapon's recoil, was left to fall graze down as Blake lost her grip on Shroud's ribbon, which was certainly preferable to dropping straight on her head. Jack leaped to her, crowning at her victory, as Blake sat stunned at the foot of the tree. Casey leaped to her feet as well, horrified by the brutal silliness after being shot with a pair of shotguns. Again, here, use your pose. Mega! The Sauropod rushed forward, running the potent healing move. Blake groaned and started to pick herself up gingerly. Oh, fine, Yang, this one is... She cut herself off as she found Meganium standing before her, a shimmering pink and yellow glow blending up in her mouth. Blake suddenly found herself unpleasantly reminded of a ravening beam of orange light she had barely dodged in time a few nights earlier, and this time it was aimed squarely at her. Meganium! The pasta light speared outward and hit Blake right in the face, and suddenly Blake was feeling... Did you just replace my aura with lasers, Meg? Weiss, hearing this, whipped out her score so quickly she nearly tipped the whisper out of her lap. The Pokemon didn't object, too busy cheering at the conclusion of the great fight. Beacon issued squad included several programs used for both in class and in the field, one of the most important being the aura gauge. One of the best functions of that program was to link with the scores belonging to owner's teammates, even in the absence of CCT signal, so long as they were close enough, and display the whole team's aura levels. That meant that I was immediately able to confirm that, despite the battering of a owner's teammate had taken during the clash, her aura was close to full. Rice lowered the score, staring at the half-plant Pokemon. She did. She replaced the aura with lasers. Young burst out laughing, clutching her belly and doubling over in mirth. Dinosaurs with magic healing lasers. I freaking love this place. Casey shook her head, trying in vain to make sense of it all. You've never heard of... You tank shotguns to the belly and bullets to the face, and who are you people? Casey was staring again, but for entirely new reasons. Aliens, she said flatly. Ruby gave her a sympathetic smile and a weak shrug. Kinda, yeah. Casey continued to stare at the quartet. It lasted long enough that it was starting to get uncomfortable. Finally, the girl closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and said, Okay. Okay, that's it? I've seen a lot of strange things in the last few years. This seems like a natural progression. There was another long, awkward silence for a while, before Casey broke it again. So, with a world with no Pokemon, what's that like? Sure, why not? Series of blasts, each indicated by a lonely pink cloud of smoke rippled up the valley, with some grim van flying, and it's still just fighting, huh? And for a few seconds, the path of the portal was clear. Great job, Nora. Great job, Nora. Jean caught. Even as the team leader is trying to fend off a stubborn monster with his shield, Pearl casually decapitated the beast for him, as she did it best, making a break for the portal. Ran arrived at her side, and they closed on a glowing hole in space. They met halfway before Cluster Bobatos barred forward, seeking to crush the students beneath the poke. Pearl skewered the first, and then wanted her to drive the hatchet-like bayonets of stormflowers into the second eyes. Crow and Taeyang blew past them, a massive blade of Harbinger, and a follow-up blast of buckshot sweeping the rest of the piggish crew away. A buckshot, huh? Taeyang charged for the portal, heedless of everything else. Even as he printed past a pack of beowulfs without so much as a glance that way, he could see the glowing disc of light shrinking. Whatever was fueling it, apparently giving up the ghost. But the veteran huntsman read about his headlong sprint, ignoring the grim around him. A shadow fell over him, a giant nevermore stooping into a drive, claws extended, known to slam into the spinning snowflake gears that appeared over Taeyang's head. A specialist's knee kept the path clear for him. Racing the collapse of the portal, Taeyang dove forward, hoping to slip through the narrow span that remained, only for it to blink shut right in front of him. He sailed through the space where it had been, and he fell heavily to the ground, unprepared for the sudden landing. Laying face down in a mud puddle, Taeyang resisted the urge to curse, having no desire to get the mark in his mouth. After a moment, he hauled himself back up, and turned to the battle still raging behind him. He may not have managed to get through wherever his girls were at this time, but there would be more chances. He knew, sure as the sunrise, he would see his daughters again eventually. In the meantime though, he could probably make himself feel a little better by slaughtering a few hundred creatures of Grim. The morning sun dawned, bright and early, and left the quartet of humans and one secret faunus crumbling their ways to wakefulness. Yang in particular refused to peek out of her sleeping bag until she had verified that Gressley was nowhere near her. So yesterday was productive and weird. Let's try to keep the top today. Casey announced after breakfast. Ruby, you and Nox come here for a minute. I thought of something that will help you last night. The two youngest girls in the group sat side by side on the logs around the fire pit as Casey opened a binder full of what looked like a compact disc. What? Music? Are you planning on using one of those sweating to the oldies programs? Casey burst out laughing at the idea. Oh, Mew, no, do I look like I'm a little old granny? Still giggling, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small device with a slot size for disc. This is my collection of tactical machines. Don't ask me how they work, but they can teach Pokemon new moves, even ones they wouldn't usually learn on their own. Ruby blinked. How the heck does that? No wait, you said you not to ask. So you want to use one to teach Nox something? Well, it depends on which season are we, if tactical machines disappear after using it once, or not. There is just really nothing to comment. Yeah, that's fine. Just be here, listen to the thing. It's all fine. It's just food. Yeah. It's like even Casey couldn't say anything to the fight, right? She was like, oh. Yep, take a look at this little beauty. Casey pulled free a disc. She did in iridescent purple. TM-06. That's a poison type. Printed on the surface. This one has the most useful poison type moves there is. The most useful. Poison sludge? Or is it just toxic? I don't think there are any other TM moves that Zubat can learn. I'm curious. What can Zubat learn? It's probably gonna say it later on. I just wanna check a little faster. By leveling up, I want the TM moves. Venom Shock. Venom Dredge. Okay. And Sludge Bomb. It has to be Sludge Bomb then. Yeah, that's the only thing that it can learn if we are following the actual ones. Nox at RWBY's head, perked up. Zubat? Zubat, bat. Casey grinned at him. Ha! He knows that what I'm talking about. This is a decision for none other than toxic. Haha! It doesn't work on Zubat! Because Zubat cannot learn toxic. I mean, can it learn from... It might learn it from level up. So if it can learn it from level up, it can learn it from TM as well, right? But I don't think it can learn it from level up either. No, it can't. It shouldn't be able to learn toxic at all. Ruby gasped, eyes wide. Oh wow, that's so cool. Now maybe we could pretend. I don't know what that means. And then we could pretend we are not pretending? Right. I'll let Nox spit up a globe of really potent poison that will drop anything but a steel type or another poison type in no time. All he has to do is connect with it, and then sit back and wait. Okay, that's pretty cool. Wanna try it, Nox? Ruby's favorite had immediately squeaked his hand, quite eager to learn the epitome of poison moves. It was only the work of a minute to load the disc into a reader. Casey showing Ruby how to use it as she went. Finally, Casey had the reader up to Nox's head, and the disc began to spin. And a few seconds later, it let out a cheerful ping as she withdrew it. Done! Ruby blinked at her, then closed her eyes to look up at Nox. That was it? Yep, easy, huh? Definitely easy. Nox, do you feel any different? So... The little bat droned. His mouth was slack. His speech was monotone. Ruby's eyes widened in alarm. Nox, you okay? Don't worry. Casey assured her. That's normal, especially if he never used one before. He just had a huge pile of information put into his head. He will be a little out of it for a minute or two while he puts it all together. Which you will see. Then we set up a target so he can practice using it. Maybe Gasly would be willing. He's a poison type. Young wandered over, started leafing through the binder itself. So, is it easy? Just apply directly to forehead and poof, he knows poison fu? Poison fu? Could pretend we are not pretending. This might be one of Ang's lines from the series finale. From the Airbender. Yeah. Casey tilted her head and... Wait, no! I just realized what she is gonna do. Young is gonna try to use teaching a move to herself. Is it gonna work? Did anyone try that before? Casey tilted her head and waggled her hand side to side in the gesture of kinda sorta. Now he knows the basic functions of how to do it, but he definitely needs practice and experience to use it right. It's the difference between knowing how to punch a punching bag and knowing how to punch an actual opponent. Zubat! Nox suddenly twitched and spat a glob of purple ooze almost the size of his head into a campfire, still smothering from cooking their meal. Yay! At least the meal is not there anymore. The material was instantly ignited, purplish flames flying up and burning away in a few seconds, leaving only a small cloud of purplish black smoke that drifted slowly away. Nox swept into the air in excitement, squeaking ecstatically at his accomplishment, while sitting on the other side of the campfire, wrinkled her nose in disgust, and leaned away from the acrid smelling smoke. Yang on the other hand was grinning. Awesome! These things work on humans! That would make Oblex histoglasses so much easier! Casey laughed, shaking her head. They only make them for Pokemon, and it's only for different moves. They don't do a thing for human use, it's fun. Which a pity I hear about how easy they would make school. Grinning mischievously, Yang pulled one of the discs. This one a cherry orange. Give me the thing, I wanna try! Casey rolled her eyes, but passed the TM reader over. It's not like there was any harm in the blonde trying, and a few seconds it would take to prove her point would be faster than arguing. Popping to say hi, hope you're feeling alright. Yes, I am. I'm a bit tired, but that's fine. So, let's see how this thing works. Because if it actually just puts information through aura, then it might actually work on Yang. Yang swapped the disc and placed the device against her head. So which one is number 35? I'm not gonna shout that loud. I don't wanna break the microphone or anything. Yang's question went incomplete, as she instead began to shriek in agony. Her friends could only look in horror as her back arched, face stretched into a rictus as her scream grew louder. After a few seconds, the device let out a cheerful ping and fell from her slack fingers. Yang collapsed to the ground, limbs spasming and body trembling. She wasn't screaming anymore, but she seemed to be mouthing something silently. Yang! RWBY leaped to her sister's side, dropping to her knees beside her. Takeshy was there nearly as quickly, hopping up on Yang's belly and champing plaintively. The rat had tried to remember the rules of first aid related seizures, and tried to hold her shaking arm still. Yang, speak to me! Say something! Control initiation initiate exothermic reaction encompassing 27 degrees expansion with effective reach. Say something that makes sense! Duration dependent on respiratory capacity was indexed by Dr. Octogonapus' scale of organic projected attacks. Beginning test initiated in 3, 2, 1. Bah! RWBY threw herself backwards as Yang convulsed ferociously, shoulders rising from the ground and head tilting back as she, for lack of a better word, ejected into a pillar of flame into the air. It stretched almost 20 feet straight up, and it was a matter of pure luck that she hadn't been close enough to ignite any trees. As the fire dissipated, Yang slumped back to the ground bonelessly, groaning but thankfully no longer convulsing. Takeshy, who had been thrown off by her last heave, moved up to her head and took a seat in the crook of her neck, chirping softly. He looked over at the others, who were still staring, horrified and dismayed at what had happened to their friend. Well, for that, what's what? That really was an impressive flamethrower. Now she can both fire. It's a little bit more dangerous to use on humans, but they can learn things if it connects with their aura. You sure you're okay, young? RWBY asked for what felt like a 50th time. But it was only the 20th. Don't roll her eyes. They immediately corrected her as her pounding head punished her for disrespect. I'm fine, RWBY. Just a headache now. That was a bit of a lie. It was more migraine from her, but it generally was much better than how she had felt a few hours earlier. Meganium stood next to her, a faint pink mist rising from her petals. She had called the move aromatherapy, and it was surprisingly soothing. Her migraine had started slowly fading in the moment she breathed in the relaxing floral scent. Yang had to sit with her back to the grass type though. She was still coughing up mouthfuls of fire at random intervals, and there had almost been an accident the first time it happened. I still don't know what happened, Casey said, feeling guilty for her part in the debacle, despite their services for others. You must have tried using TMs before, but they didn't do anything. Even if you guys aren't from around here, you are not Pokemon. Haha, they can be cold! Blake, sitting comfortably on the tree branch, leaned back against the trunk with Ghastly, who was still trying to choose a name for, floating at her side. It's well established that these TMs don't think work on humans, right? Everyone knows it. Yeah, they did all kind of tests when they were invented, and sometimes people fool around with them. I had a friend who, as a kid, who thought he could learn Hyperbeam if he borrowed his brother's TM reader, and all he got out of it was a scolding from his mom for taking stuff without permission. Blake nodded, contemplating on possibilities. Riley told us that there are very few human aura users here, and that Yang is probably the strongest he has seen. We also know that Pokemon use aura to fuel their everything. And I'm guessing that data disk containing huge treaties on the principles behind an attack are related to the relatively new invention. She looked at the Casey for confirmation, and the younger girl agreed. The technology is older than me, but not by much. Blake hummed as she considered that. What are the odds that none of the handful of aura users out there ever tried it, because they knew it wouldn't work for them? It seems like the sort of only a child or someone very childish. She paused to give Yang pointed a glance, but try. By the time someone was considered an owner that, why would they bother? Wise frowned. Anyway, they did try it. I swear the terrifying conclusions would stop them from trying it anymore. We can ask Riley if he knows anything about that if we see him again. RWBY concluded. And once I've shaken this headache, maybe I can try breathing fire on purpose. Yang said with savage grin. True, the effect was spoiled by a twinge of sharp pain. RWBY, Weiss, and Casey stared at her. Blake just shook her head. Casey, you may very well have doomed us all. Yes, she might have. Much better, Whisper. You are learning very quickly. Weiss praised, swelling with pride as her Pokemon moved through the first set of basic stances for wielding a rapier. The Tiny Psychic even had the discipline to finish the setup before acknowledging the compliment, and cheering like a toddler she was. Yay! I'm a sweater! That's a sword, man, or duelist, Whisper. She plucked the rides off the ground and started walking back towards the others, who were in the middle of fixing dinner. Swordsman? Yeah, that's right. She's a swordsman. Weiss smiled. Close enough. In fact, that's more accurate. Anyway, enough for today. We will eat dinner, get a good night's sleep, and practice more tomorrow. As long as someone doesn't have another seizure because she's doing something stupid. Anyone I know? Yang flipped flippantly as she added more kindling to the campfire. Casey and Blake had managed to talk her out of trying to reunite it with flamethrower, pointing out that she hadn't participated at all yet, and therefore she didn't have any control over how much fire she generated, but it was a near thing. And even then, she mostly relented because trying to use it made her head come back with a vengeance. Depends, the vice said with a half-serious glare. Do you know any irresponsible, immature, incoherent, inconsiderate, idiot imbeciles with a penchant for pyromania and for party damage? Yang considered the question thoughtfully before smiling back at her. No, doesn't ring a bell. Well, maybe it will help you if you get your pair wrong. And then from a voice caught from the forest. Huh. The whole group turned to face approaching people, even as Yang scowled mildly. That was a terrible pun. Trust me, I'm an expert. Also, who the hell are you? A pair of humans, a man and a woman in black uniforms, bearing a bright red R on their chest, sauntered into the clearing. Huh. I know this is not Team Rocket's team, this is Team Dimsum's team, but it might fit. Though the logo was clearly the same as those run by the thugs Vice has defeated, the uniforms were obviously much higher quality and tailored to fit. The guy, green hair almost falling over his eyes and the cool smile on his face, was wearing a more flattering version of the baggy jumpsuit the dogs had been in, with the addition of white gloves and bell boots. The woman on the other hand was wearing an almost scandalously short figure-hugging dress, white high boots with heels and matching shoulder-length opera gloves. Less suitable outfit for traipsing around in the woods would be hard to imagine, and that's with Vice and her own skirt and boots present. Sorry about that. Casey took one look at the attire and gasped. They are for Team Rocket! Then crossed an eyebrow, not particularly concerned. Those clowns again. Those ones who couldn't beat Bicycle 5-on-1. We are not the same champ you ever encountered before. The woman scoffed. You are not ready for what we have in store, the man added. Why is playing? What? And with that, the floodgates is opened, and a pair of criminals began to strike theatrical poses while reciting lines of poetry. For some reason. Wait. Then why does if it's them, then why does... Huh. It does Jesse and James. Is this Team Rocket's thing, or did these buffoons stole their lines? Prepare for trouble and make it double, her partner concluded. Here's our mission, so you better listen, they both said it before returning to alternating lines. The infected world with devastation, to bright up people in every nation, to denounce the goodness of truth and love, to extend our wrath to the stars above. It's not because green hair and Cassidy and bunch of course. We are Team Rocket circling Earth all night, all day and night. Surrender to us now, or you will surely lose the fight. Silence fell over the clearing. Even the soft breeze stilled. Team RWBY stared at Team Rocket, wide-eyed and incredulous. The moment stretched on and on, growing more uncomfortable. Cassidy, not used to such a passive reaction to the motto, carved awkwardly into the hand. Wait, is this the... I think I might remember them. Oh yeah. Those are the Team Rocket members who had better ways of catching Pokemon. And better luck at catching Pokemon than Jesse and James. Who actually had money. Right? And they did steal Jesse James's motto. Finally, about a minute past someone's "Please say something, Mark." Blake finally hesitantly spoke up. Did we just get threatened to a poetry and interpretive dance? Vice my turn, sir, even as she was slowly shaking her head in disbelief. I think that's what just happened. Ruby turned to her friends. Is it wrong that I kinda miss Roman Tolshvik? Wait, is Tolshvik... Does Torchic already have a name? Can we call the Torchic Roman? Roman Torchic? Enough! Cassidy barked. You, she pointed at Weiss, have inconvenienced our glorious team, and it's time to debt was repaid. Weiss narrowed her eyes, one hand resting on Myrtleizer's ears. Oh no, I've been singled out as target by a criminal organization with pointless and nonsensical grudge against me. That certainly never happened before. Bosch sneered at her. Oh, we are not just here for you. Everyone associated with you is on our list too. That's what happens when you stand against Team Rocket. Every Pokemon here is forfeit, the property of Team. And yours, theirs, and a lady that happened to catch our eyes, and they are ours now. And we will do it with these little beauties. He put us an old Pokeball from his bat and let it rest on his palm. It was pitch black. Oh, it's the R&D stealing Pokeballs, right? That they used before. The one button divided by a white line, a prominent red R at the bottom. The latest toy to come out of R&D. Alright boys, strong as Ultra Ball and able to bypass the protections of standard balls. Feeling the need to show off, Beef spun the ball on the tip of his finger, like a tiny basketball. Beef? Is it Beef or Buff? Butch? With this, there is absolutely nothing you can do to stop us while we... Bilge? Wait. Now this is on purpose. Now this is on purpose. Every sentence his name is mentioned is different. I keep forgetting what's his name, yeah. Bilge, stop talking. He instead crushed the hand he had been balancing the ball on protectively, standing the uppermost and absolutely lethal looking weapon that has suddenly appeared in the red hand's hand. Yeah, it's the absolute perfect defense against Team Rocket. Guns! The remaining fragments of the overhead bar fell to the ground. As RWBY calmly worked the boxy rifle's balls, running for the next shot. Is that a gun? Cassidy sputtered, shocked by the sudden presence of the weapon. RWBY's lips twitched into a grin as she had the assemblage of red liquid steel out to her side, and with a flicker of the wrist it folded into a massive bladed polearm, longer than she was tall. It's also a sight, she corrected. I'm curious when it's gonna be the time when Officer Jedi's are gonna surround them and actually take their weapons. I mean, Team RWBY's weapons. I'm pretty sure they don't have any papers that allow them to go out into cities with weapons, with guns. With a flourish that was completely unnecessary, but looked really cool, RWBY threw the weapon into a relaxed, ready stance, the heavy bladed end on the carving crescents of steel crossing behind her back. Metanizer, Grumble showed and ambushed Salcatore in crescent rows, as the wielders deployed their armaments, ready but not quite aimed at the criminals. Blotch and Kesley hesitated, but once they moved, they did so decisively. A pair of Pokeballs hit the ground, and the resulting flash of light revealed a winged incarnate of fire, and a mountain of stone and steel. Char! Akron! Jason and Akron bellowed as they were sent out, ready to unleash their full evil of might. The past knew that the puny Pokemon and the punier humans arrayed before them, disdainful of the weapons. The humans apparently thought would protect them. Pfeh! Yang scoffed, stepping forward. Is that it? Just two? Jason scoffed in return, being more than familiar with humans who tried to put on a brave face. He lunged suddenly, long stretching out jaws, snapping shut no more than 2 inches in front of Yang's nose, fire bursting from his clashing teeth. Yeah, that's gonna be a strange thing. To his surprise, Yang didn't even reach. To his greater surprise, she grinned. Well, shoot, I can do that too. She grasped her fists together, and much later a burst of flame exploded out of the blonde. Jedi did flinch and pull back, not out of pain but out of shock. Akron, on the other hand, stepped forward to the Warren-shaped pillar of fire. As part of the rock type, he didn't fear the flames, the way most steel type would. And as far as he was concerned, this play was just made her a valid target. Humans can manipulate fire like Pokemon, therefore this human girl is not a human, but a Pokemon using an illusion or transformation, therefore Metal Claw. Akron liked it when things were simple. Yeah, that's actually good thing. His glowing talons sighted towards the girl, and she jerked her head away from the attack. They both ignored the horrified gasps of the shorter violet-haired girl as Blondie danced back, still grinning. Oh, impatient, huh? Don't worry, I'll be able to kick your butt so hard you will coughing up your tail. She did laughed, eyes wandering in horror. That was more like it. Wait, what was she staring at? Not Akron, not Charizard. They seemed to be directing panicked gaze toward a few golden strands drifting in the breeze. Same color as his impeccably long hair. What happened? I don't know if she's so ghastly or something. Take cover! The shout drew Akron's attention for a second, and he was bemused as 3 of the other targets, the armed ones, grabbed their trainer friend and any Pokemon out of their balls, and bodily drove behind the nearest trees. He returned his gaze to the blonde. Were her eyes always red? Yang's hair was damaged. Oh! Oh. Now I see why they are saying like, take cover. Give me a second. you want? Why were you crying? Nothing to worry about. I don't know what happened, my dog was crying a little bit, so I went to check on her. It seems nothing. Luckily. She just she just had a bad dream. That's fine. Should I? Now I understand what happened. I got actually attacked and now I understand that. Okay, she damaged her hair. That's all. That's all I needed. That's all the info I needed for that. I was like, wait, what happened? She seemed to be directing that panic gaze toward a few golden strands drifting in her breeze. Same color as the impacted long hair. Yeah, for some reason I thought that someone else who had the same colored hair was jumping in between them, or maybe Gasly was making an illusion or something like that. I literally didn't think about, oh yeah, she hates when anybody touches their hair, and they're gonna use metal claws. And she became a little bit angry. So I'm not gonna read that again. I'll just... Wait, what? But it makes sense now. Everyone took cover. And Timorette probably flew off again. Because we are switching to Gary Riley, Lucario, and Tracy, who trudged through the forest following Arcanine as he attempted to reacquire the trail. Tracy had out a map and was trying to verify their position and heading. He frowned, squinting at the sun as he attempted to determine which way was east. Gary was taking an opportunity to find some more. Why? Why couldn't they have stayed in Exeter? Why did they have to go wandering off in the woods again? Especially why wouldn't they use an extra freaking road? Riley remains as stoic as his partner. Simply kept moving forward. If I'm not mistaken, I'm assuming the Paris hasn't turned, of course. They seem to be heading for the Lake of Rage without detouring to visit Margoni Town. Okay, but why? Why would they want to do that? We shall simply need to ask them when we find them. Lucario said calmly. My guess, though, that would be that it was suggested by the new company Arcanine reported. Gary groaned into his hands as he kept trudging forward. Great! And now we can't even just teleport to the lake because they may not have ended up there. And the pace is big enough we will probably never pick up the trail again. Perfect! He sighed and raising his eyes heavenward like the melodramatic teenager he was. At this rate we are never going to find them. Tomb. The hunting party stopped, turning towards the distant sound. They were high enough on the mountain slope to see out over the forest, and they could see flocks of Pidgey and mundane birds rising from the treetops in a panic, even as a brief flash of golden light burst above the canopy, and immediately faded. Oh, there they are! Serpentine vision of horror rose from the depths of the lake. Monster's face, seen in the nightmares of many sailors bursting from the surface with bellowing roar. The atrocious Pokemon, Gyarados, had come to survey his domain, and the whole betide, anywho, they are not welcome. At least, that was humans would have seen. To those that could understand the city's sake, it was slightly different station. Good nap. Commotion from the distant northwest shore drew the water type's attention, and he hardly noticed a raging battle taking place, particularly a one-sided battle at that. Wait, that doesn't matter that way. That doesn't matter. Now it does. Huh? Jealous mused aloud. I didn't know there was a fire type version of outrage. My blood! She poisoned all my blood! What? Where is that from? I'm pretty sure I know this sentence. Where is this from? Oh, it's the meat the sandwich. Yes, it's from TF2. I was like, yeah, I know that sentence. Oh, that a human could use it. Oasis! Everything is on fire, especially my things that won't burn! Jealous watched the battle for a moment longer before coming to a decision. I think I will go visit the south side of the lake today. He turned his back on the ongoing massacre and swam away. My blood is fire and it burns me! Why is there silence in this one? Huh, one of them is just silent. Is silented. Literally. Also, that doesn't fit. Sure. My leg! Also, we should definitely put some screams in that. In there. Cheddar lay groaning at his mistress's feet, and piled atop him in no better state. The pair of Team Rocket operatives stared at the strongest Pokemon wide-eyed before looking back at the still burning woman who had put them there. Cassidy offered a weak smile. Can't we talk about this? Yang lunged forward. Very complicated seconds took place as Yang moved to lay beating on the criminals that somehow resulted in a massive conclusive explosion. That incomplete and utter defiance of physics resulted in Yang getting shoved back a short distance and the thieves getting launched skyward with their Pokemon at speeds worthy of their namesake, disappearing off into the distance. Looks like Team Rocket's busting off again! Ruby and her friends picked up the fallen log they had shattered behind. The mossy green wood serving as a decent protection from Yang's sire. The fires were drying around her, but she stood still, her back to her companions, leaving her face unreadable. After a long silent moment, she threw her hands in the air. What just happened? What just happened? You beat all of Team Rocket, at least the ones that were in front of you, and I know what is gonna happen. We are gonna continue with the next chapter. Say as fast as he can. Yang stared up in the sky as the pair of criminals and their Pokemon vanished into the distance. It was so fucking surreal. Am I on drugs? Does that element of his have side effects? Weiss walked up to next to her, not taking her eyes off the shrinking dot. If you are... we all are young. Yeah, Teamworker just does that. Casey sighed, like all of the time. Exploding for no reason and threatening poetry? Yes. How far is it to town, and do they have decent bar? Ruby found her sister. No, young. But, no! I'm too young to drink, and if I need to remember this, then so do you. There you are! The 5 girls turned towards the expected shout. The argument forgot them before it could really begin. Blake was the only one who caught Vice's near silent matter of, and what fresh hell is this? Damon was surprised to find a quartet of familiar faces approaching from the woods, accompanied by a big-headed, golden-skinned Pokemon they hadn't seen before. Gary Oak, Tracy Cratchit, and Riley, with Lucario of course, were walking towards them purposefully, Gary in particular sagging in relief. We have been searching for you girls for days! Vice narrowed her eyes, suspicious. Gary? Blake blinked in surprise, not having expected to see their dining companions again so soon. Riley? Lucario? Jen grinned widely, putting aside her performance to focus on who was in front of her. Drowsy paints it? Close enough. Tracy quirked an eyebrow. Heard that for at least a dozen times. Damn it! She didn't forget, she just tried to have some puns. What are you doing here? Ruby asked. And what do you mean by searching for us? Why? Why? Vice demanded. Huh, that's a strange one. Sure. Because an army of horrible monsters attacked the town, and heroines that saved the day. Oh wait, that's Lucario. Because an army of horrible monsters attacked the town, and the heroines that saved the day, and more importantly actually seemed to know what was going on, vanished into the night. Lucario said simply. A lot of people want to thank you, and a lot more want to ask you for advice that yarn came from nowhere. Vice paused, eyes widening. Oh, she said, in a rather small voice. Gray stepped forward, sketching the back of his head awkwardly. Let's try this again. Hi, I'm Gary Oak, grandson of the world's famous scientist Professor Samuel Oak, and Tracy here is Graham's lab assistant. Little less than 2 weeks ago, a crackpot colleague of his started panicking about old wormholes, and some archaeological evidence that said that horrible monsters had come through them, like 1,000 years ago. And which is true. We know that Salem had sent some scouts before here. Daisy picked up the thread of Gary's explanation. Professor Oak was skeptical, but admitted that Professor Cypress might sometimes get things right. A few days later, Cypress contacted us again, claiming he had been attacked by a monstrous wolf thing while investigating the site of an ancient battle against the monsters. He even had a picture of one, and so Professor Oak sent the 2 of us to meet him in Golden Valley. Vice raised her hand to cover her eyes. We were trying to figure out how to get people to take the warning about Grimm seriously, and you two were right there. She paused, and shot mildly irritated gaze at Gary. Do you often run into hit random girls while on important missions? Gary flinched, remembering how that had gone. To be honest, I thought the whole invasion of monsters thing was a cock at the point. Gary just shook his head, and ruefully, and got things back on the focus. It's a good thing we saw young Sora Flare a few minutes ago. And Gary had Alakazam there. He indicated the golden Pokemon, who stroked his long mustache thoughtfully. The teleporters to the side. If we had to keep tracking you normally, you would probably have packed up and left by the time we got here. How did you track us anyway? Blake asked, not entirely comfortable with the idea of being followed so easily. Actually, that part was pretty easy, Gary said, plucking the Pokeball from his bag. It's just a matter of asking the expert. Uh-oh. The ball dropped to the dirt and burst open. The flash of light taking the shape of something massive. Doggy! Ruby squealed. It wasn't an inaccurate statement. Gary's Pokemon was definitely canine. Doggy, though, didn't seem quite sufficient to describe the towering mountain of hound that stood there, tail wagging and tongue lolling. Arcanine! He yapped with a voice like a foghorn, cheerfully greeting his quarry for the last few days. Huh, that's a whole lot of dog, Yang said, staring at her sister immediately, starting patting the massive beast to his obvious enjoyment. Rice was usually struggling against the urge to join her partner in stalking the gigantic fluffy dog, but managed to hold firm and retain her dignity. There was a long moment of awkward quiet, as everyone except Ruby, who was otherwise occupied, tried to figure out how to proceed. Ruby's enthusiasm over Arcanine had kind of derailed the conversation, and the pose led both sides to realize that they hadn't planned this far ahead, and they didn't realize that Blake has gone. Disappeared. In science fiction movies and novels, there were often references to first contact protocols. For when the inhabitants of different worlds met for the first time, presumably written by professional diplomats. Such protocols were probably vital to a peaceful resolution to what could be a very tense situation. Yeah, first contact. Hit on there! Or at least try to. Obviously nobody involved in this meeting has any such protocol to fall back on, so they were reduced to using a more realistic option. Wing it. So, Tracy Fire managed. How are you enjoying Earth so far? Young shrugged and smiled. Oh, you know, on one hand there is the dinosaurs with magic healing lasers. She held out her hand to the side. Then there is the poetry terrorists. She had her other hand out and gestured like she was weighing the options. So ups and downs, mostly upsides you would say. Toxic! Her Pokemon agreed, running up to stand at her feet. Yang smiled down at her feathery friend, stooping to pick him up. Yeah, definitely more ups and downs. She glanced at Ghastly, who was hovering by Blake's shoulder, staring at the photos intently. Yang shivering. Mostly. Gray was staring at young Bankley. Poetry what? Oh, you mean Team Rocket? Tracy nodded slowly as he put the pieces together. So that's what that explosion was. Rice stared at them blankly, before turning to Casey, who had been quiet since the newcomers had arrived. You weren't reading about them doing it all the time, were you? Nope. What about you, Blake? Yang turned to face her partner, who stood silently with an impressive, stoic expression. You're being pretty quiet. I'm surprised you didn't jump a little at Grace's fire friend. Blake? Yang reached over and poked the brunettes shoulder, and sighed that the girl dissolves in the shadows. Yeah, that's why they didn't notice that she's gone, because she left the after image. Yeah, that seems about right. It's why all over again. Rice grumbled, ignoring the shocked looks from Gary and Tracy. The hair scanned the forest and lakeside with her fist resting on her lips before taking to look up. Sure enough, Blake, desperately trying to look casual, was standing on a tree branch a good 20 feet above them. She kept her gaze level, scanning the horizon diligently, and certainly not looking at the tremendous doom beast right below her feet. Definitely not. She was also not thinking about how Ruby, another little wife she was, had been taken in by the monster's deceptive fuzziness, and would never try to convince Blake to pet the doggy too. Blake, what are you doing? His voice caught up. Amusement clear in her tone. I'm getting the higher ground. There was a discussion among her teammates that even about Freeman hearing couldn't catch. Before Yang caught up to her again. Blake, come down here. You know we will make you. Maybe it would be better if you came up here. Whatever, do it, RWBY. Crescent Rose roared, and the bullet shattered the branch. Right joined the trunk. Blake fell 2 stories to the ground, landed easily on the forest floor, and glared angrily at the traitors. While seeing the dumbfounded expressions on the guests' faces, turned upon herself to explain. Blake is nearly as afraid of dogs as Yang is of course. Yang's expression didn't change, but her eyes twitched. You shut your pretty word hole! She cheerfully instructed. Sorry, Akane, you better take the rest for now. They raised his hound's great paw, ignoring the dog's sudden look at lust for further patting, and RWBY's own version of puppy dog eyes, which was somehow even harder to resist. Hang on a sec, Yang said, gaining a thoughtful look, ignoring the glare of Blake aimed at the back of her head. Akane is he a fire type? Because somebody said something about them needing firestones the other day. Yeah, that's right. Hey Akane, do you know flamethrower? Blake's side snapped open. Horror consuming her as he confirmed the hound nodded. That's probably a picture. No, that's a sound effect. Sure. Horror consuming her as she confirmed the hound nodded. Great, come here for a second, will you? Arunas watched curiously as Yang led Akane down the water's edge. Asked him a few things. After a moment, Akane used flamethrower out over the water. A jet of flame scattering a few gallons of the surface into the steam. RWBY glanced at Blake, noticing the way the taller girl had crossed her arms, and the way her nails were starting to dig into her own skin. Blake? Are you okay? Why can't I wake up? Nobody else took notice of the exchange because they were too busy watching Yang ask Akane a few more questions, then turned to face the lake herself. As Yang's own plume of flame erupted across the lake, not quite as far from or controlled as Akane's, Gay felt his jaw drop. What? Rai turned to Lucario. Did Miss Xiaolong just use flamethrower or was I seeing things? She did. The state actor confirmed, which will make our eventual rematch more challenging, that's for certain. Tracy didn't say a word. He was too busy sketching the scene before him. On his pad, Yang stood on the water's edge, flame curling against the tiny waves, as Akane looked on. Tracy was already feeling some pride as how well he had captured the look of Ninja Prime, and utter confusion on Akane's face. RWBY stepped in front of them, clearing her throat. So it turns out the technical machine thing is too fucking humorous as long as the human can use aura. Cause the seizures probably mean it's a bad idea. Say pretty neat, huh? Tracy shut his drawing pad, confident that he had enough to be able to finish the rest from the memory later. Seizures? Yeah, and migraines. Not so bad now though. Yang called from the shore. Thanks for the help, Furball. Akane welcomed her by licking her face. Raised her eyes away from the massive fuzzy puppy and cleared her throat, ready to bring the conversation back on topic. So you have found us, what happens now? Idly? Gray asked. You come with us to talk with Grams and then maybe the 4. Seeing the confusion, he quickly added. The strongest trainers in the region. They kind of the first line of defense and last word when it comes to national emergencies, rampaging legendaries, or I don't know, invading hordes of monsters. At least when Ashes isn't around, Tracy mom, but yeah, because actually a 10-year-old kid is actually the thing, the one that solves everything. Team RWBY shared a few glances among themselves before RWBY smiled and nodded. Sure, we didn't have much in the way of plan anyway, besides fight game and look for a way home. Maybe they will have some better ideas. Well, that's a relief. Find some things is easy. Gray sighed. There was a cough from behind the entrances, and as Casey reminded everyone she existed. Can I come too? Cause I know I'm not really involved, but... Yeah, I can hear my voice is slowly going away. But I'm still gonna finish this chapter. Kai smiled at her, understanding her motivation quite well. But you are involved enough, and you really want to see how deep this binary hole goes, right? Casey nodded enthusiastically. I really can't read. Exactly. Oh, of course you are coming, Yang cried, throwing an arm out of the smaller girl's shoulders. I still owe you some lessons. Yeah, about that, before I take any lessons from you, I would ask, do you explore the fun? Yeah, she had a look with Tracy and shouted. Yeah, okay. Camps has gone back to his lab, so if you get to camp packed up, Lacazette can port us all straight to Planet Town. Well said that guy, as she considered the implications. Wait, Pokemon can carry passengers when they teleport and go from all the way from here to wherever that is? Of course! Best way to travel around, as long as your porter is familiar with the target. Gary said. Why do you... Oh, cute rats you got there. Yeah, if she knows teleport, she can take you with her, with some practice. He grinned and rested a hand on his own psychic type shoulder. And look at him here as an expert. He can take this whole group halfway around the world if he wanted to. As long as he's been there before, of course. I smiled down at the beaming fairy, intrigued by the idea. Well, isn't that interesting? It is. It didn't take long at all to break camp and get everything prepared to move out. At Gary's request, all the Pokemon that had Pokeballs were stowed away, so that to make things easier for Alakazam. So it was 8 humans, and the Alakazam, a Torchic, and the Gastly vanished from the shore of the Lake of Rage in a flash of cellular light, and a heartbeat later, they reappeared on the outskirts of a tiny town a few hundred miles away. The sun beat down warm and bright, illuminating the cheerful little town that seemed to have leapt straight out of pages of storybook. The group stood beside a narrow stream, the grass along the banks neatly trimmed and maintained. The road beneath their feet was simply dirt, packed hard by the passage of decades, vast of travelers. The path meandered past scatterings of lovingly tended houses, most of which were painted white and had various shades of orange and yellow tiles making up for their roofs. The handful of exceptions had the boxy shapes of shrubs or other small businesses. Trees and bushes grew wild along the roads, but looked like they were trimmed and maintained well as well. It gave the impression of compromise between beautifying the village and letting the nature take its course. For the 4 trainers accompanying the huntresses, Planet Town wasn't particularly exceptional. Sure, it was Gary's hometown and boasted like Oak Pokemon Lab, but otherwise it was just another sleepy little town like dozens of others they had passed through in their travels. To Team RWBY, it was quite a revelation. Planet Town was smaller than Exeter, about the same size as Golden Valley, but neither of those places had the same quaintly sleepy air as this town did. This town truly seemed to represent what it meant to live in a world without crime. And if their meetings with the Professor Oak and the Elite Four went well enough, it could stay that way. Shaking off a vague sense of melancholy, Yang peered at the town on display before her. So, where's this lab of yours anyway? She pointed at the largest of the boxy buildings inside. Is that the one? I bet it's that one. Gary grinned and jerked the thumb over his shoulder. That's about you with Lowe's. It's that one. Team RWBY and Casey turned around and looked up. I think we can see the picture if it would be there here. Sadly, that picture is broken. So we can see that. Behind them, the stream was crossed by a small but sturdy wooden bridge. Beyond it, a set of decorated gates sat at the foot of the flagstone staircase that climbed up to the top of the tall hill, with a large building set atop it. The lab consisted of 3 parts, the first being a simple 2-story box that looked like a normal house. It was attached to a larger section, 3 stories tall, with a curved roof that started on the ground, climbed up onto the peak, and then dropped back down until it reached the first section's roof. Rising up from behind, the whole thing was a tall vine turbine, blades gently spinning in the breeze. Gary led them across the footbridge and up to the stairs, pausing only long enough to draw the rectangular device of red metal from his pocket and wave it in front of the sensor to unlock the gates. Come on, I will introduce you to Gramps once, and we can all sit down and let you get some answers. Gary didn't bother to knock, he just swung open the door and strode in like he owned the place, which made sense since it belonged to his grandfather. He would probably spend as much time here as his own home as a child. Gramps, I'm back! With gas! There was a resounding silence in response, as the rest of the party filed into the lab. Gary frowned and waved everyone to follow as he continued on. Probably in the research wing, this way. He led them down a long hall, studded with doors, most of them open. The first looked like a living room, with a pair of couches facing each other across the coffee table. One room was a study, the walls covered in filed bookshelves. Another one was more industrial looking than homey, with shelves of pokeballs in sockets connected to monitors projecting the continuous data feeds. The house ended in a set of stairs, and Gary led them up into a massive room, 2 stories all of its own, and filled with arcane technological devices of no readily apparent purpose. Tables were covered in racks of test tubes, beakers, and other scientific-looking glassware. There was a single bookshelf, far messier than the ones in the study. There was a single bookshelf, far messier than the ones in the study, and filled with a variety of reference text and binders. And above it all was a massive set of bay windows, looking out over the town. The only thing the facility was missing was a scientist to run it all. Gary grunted, a little frustrated. I know we didn't actually call ahead, but where is he? Tracy shouted, and glanced at the clock on the wall. This time of day might be out back, making sure the Pokemon don't need anything. He started back down the stairs. I'll go check, so why don't you give them the 10-cent tour while we wait? Yeah. Gary grumbled, turning back to the rest. So, welcome to the Oak Pokemon Research Center. As you can see, we are surrounded by sciencey things, most of which I don't actually know what they are for. Absolutely riveting, Rai sputtered, her tone as dry as a desert. She fiddled with Whisper's Pokeball for a second, raising the little psychic, who stretched and yawned. RWBY followed Rice's lead, releasing knocks from its own ball. I don't know what this stuff for either, but I think it's neat. Blake cleared her throat, drawing looks from others as she scanned the room. Does anyone else hear that? Seeing a series of blank looks, she elaborated. That squishing sound, like someone's pouring 1,000 pounds of gelatin? Oh no. That cannot be too many things. The rest, including Pokemon, stared at her for a second, before Gary suddenly sighed and covered his eyes with his hand. I know what it is. Mark, you better not. Mark! A tiny wave of purple suddenly erupted from behind a bank of monitoring equipment. A pair of beady eyes and a gaping mouth at its crest. Ah! Vice shrieked before the man slapped her to the floor and cut her off. Vice! Ruby shrieked, and her hand flying to Castanmore's grip. Wait! Ray shouted, holding his hands out to block Vice from reacting hastily. Damn it, Mark! Get off her! Mark! The blob barked happily, ignoring the trainer's order. Yeah, that Mark loves to cling to people and hug them closely. Now that the moment of crisis has passed, the rest of those present could see that the attack was really more of an gregarious embrace. The Huntresses released their weapons as they watched the ambulatory slime ball nestle the thrashing harass, and laughter began to escape them despite their best efforts. Whisper was the only one present that seemed unamused by Vice's predicament, angrily poking Mark with her stick, to no effect, of course. Guy shook his head, trying and failing to hide his grin. Sorry about Mark, he's enthusiastic. Mark! Vice was glaring daggers at her so-called friends, especially his young, and the scroll she had pulled out to record his humiliation. Bulbasaur! A new Pokemon's voice, sounding fairly peeved, snapped at the purple blob from the top of its stairs. A bluish-green lizard toad with a large green mass of leaves on its back. Glad at Mark, his tone reproachful, the blob immediately froze in place before oozing off of Vice, looking for all the world like a scolded child. Tracy casted the chairs behind the grass type and took in the whole scene with a glance. I knew I should have checked for Mark before I went. Thanks, Bulbasaur. Would you mind having another little talk with him about respecting people's personal space? Baba! Bulbasaur glared at Mark until the sludge pie oozed his way down the stairs. Before following, extending a pair of vine-like tendrils from his flanks, just under the mess of the flower bulb that gave him his name, and lifted Vice back to her feet gently. The little lizard used one to wave at the lamp's glass brightly, before it trundled off. Ah. I will have to check that out. As soon as Bulbasaur had descended the stairs, another man who could only be Professor Oak climbed up. The stately lab coat gentleman surveyed his new guest before offering an apologetic look to Vice. Well, that certainly wasn't a great thing I did for you all. Mark is a very unfortunate Pokemon, which is a bit mixed blessing for a pile of self-propelled toxic waste. His fault? Vice shrieked. A poison type, yes. Don't worry, he only exudes his poison when he chooses to, and if he had, I assume you would already know it. He was brought here by the same young trainer as Bulbasaur. Thankfully, as the grass type is the only one of many Pokemon staying here will listen to. Bulbasaur is a lifesaver, Tracy confirmed. If it wasn't for him playing mediator between the other Pokemon around here, we would never get anything done. Oak leaned against the lab bench, surveying Team RWBY again, as well as taking a glance at that Pokemon they had brought along. Well, I suppose it's best to get down to business then. Let's get down to business. He cleared his throat and straightened up, hands resting in pockets of his last coat, just like... Welcome to the world of Pokemon. On behalf of the Pokemon League and everyone in Golden Valley, thank you for what you did. Without your help, hundreds of lives may have been lost before the defense could be rallied. Thanks to you, there wasn't so much as a single fatality. Riley, Tracy, and Guy nodded in agreement with the sentiment, but Casey and the other 3 Pokemon that had joined RWBY after that battle may look confused. Riley noticed and leaned over to give a quiet summary. RWBY smiled at the nice old guy and said, "No problem, we are huntresses and that's what we do." Oak smiled back, cheered by the girl's natural ebullience. "Now, I am a scientist, of course, and I dabble in a wide variety of fields. My specialty though is studying the sociology of both Pokemon and humans, and how they affect each other. As visitor from another world, one apparently has no Pokemon." Seeing them nod, he continued, "I would love to simply sit and talk for hours about what life is there, see what different and what's the same, ask how technology may have been developed differently, but there is more important to discuss first. I would like to know if you are a girl or a boy." The Pokemon Professor expression grew intense as she got to the heart of the problem. "Please, tell me what we need to know about what we need to know to defeat the Grim." There was a long, uncomfortable moment as Team RWBY glanced among themselves before Vi sensed for them. "Think about the Grim. You fight them, you kill them, you survive them, but actually defeat them for good, you don't." Blake saw the surprise on Oak's face and chose to elaborate. "For as long as man has existed in Remnant, the creatures of Game have been there. We have been fighting them for our entire history, and it's unlikely that will ever change. Nobody ever knows when they come from, or why they are so obsessed with killing people," RWBY added. "They are just a fact of life back home. That's why we huntsmen and huntresses throughout the line and fight back. And we are really good at it," Young bragged. "But hey, things aren't so bad here. It looks like you only need to worry about the Grim coming through the portal thingies instead of the whole world of things. And you've got some kick-ass help to get the job done." She heard torching, and the little bird crawling in the light. RWBY brightened up, glad for her sister's brand of optimism. "Yeah, Yang's right. If Grim gets established here, you will have trouble, but between the bottleneck of portals make and these little guys," she signed above her head, and gave Nox an affectionate scratch behind the ear where he pushed out of her head, "who are worth another huntsman each, you got some real advantages." "It's not to say there aren't steps to be taken," I said, her tone going authoritarian. Wow, that I want to say authoritarian, but authoritarian, that's it. And it did when she was discussing work to be done. "Society on Remnant has been shaped by the Grim, just as society here has been shaped by Pokemon. Civilization back home is centered on the 4 kingdoms, each a massive walled city in defensive locations. Smaller towns exist, but they are somewhat risky and exposed, and fortifications are an absolute necessity. Walls around the boundary, shelters for non-combatants, enough stockpile supplies, and a mission to outlast the prolonged attack. A well-trained militia and evacuation drills for the civilians. In other words, your absolute priority needs to be interdicting the portals, since building proper defenses around so many towns in a time isn't really viable," Blake concluded. "Trying to protect towns as open and indefensible as Golden Valley is a losing proposition. I think that your larger cities have much in the way of supplies set aside to support mass evacuations and refugee situations, and if an attack can be held back." Oak had reached for a notepad and started scribbling at some point as he listened. I see. And how do we locate the portals, or ultra wormholes as the people we are studying the phenomenon have named them, in time to intercept the reinforcements? There was a bit of uncomfortable shifting among Team RWBY. While the humans were off discussing human things, the Pokemon were discussing Pokemon things, even as they listened to the trainers' conversation with half an ear. Academy has chosen to try and impart a little wisdom to whisper from one psychic to another. See, Mark didn't mean any harm, but if he had, the stick wouldn't hurt something as blobby as him. If you had used psychic move, like confusion, that would have worked much better. Whisper about it up at the more experienced Pokemon, clutching a stick proactively. It's absurd! You're gonna fight like Big Sis does! Arkham raised an eyebrow and tugged at his mustache as the tiny fairy jabbed the stick at some invisible enemies. I have heard about what she can do with a sword. You could do worse for our mother. Sir, you should really practice your confusion. It's the base of pretty much all psychic moves. Once you get a little older, maybe you could try to learn Psycho Cut. Psycho Cut? Whispers. Ted inquired curiously. Arcanum raised one of his spoon-shaped foci and focused his power. A sudden glow filled his eyes, and suddenly a blade of light extended from his grip. The bar, of course, as the psychic power gave off a faint zoom, and it moved through the air. It's a laser sword! Or a lightsaber. I have seen some models use variants of that shoot the blades, like they were trying to mimic Akotar with psychic type energy. But I already have plenty of long range options. I prefer to use it like it was originally intended. For when things get dicey up close and teleporting away isn't an option. It's a more civilized move from more civilized age. There was a clatter and flash of pink light as Whisper dropped her stick and teleported. Akasam's arms tripped as she appeared dangling from his wrist, her eyes wide. Teach me! Now hang on! Oh, this is a pretty advanced move. You really need to work on your basics before. Teach me, or I'm cute at you until you do. I'm cute at you until you do. Akadam stared at the dangling child for a moment before sighing. Oh, no way I would go for the threat like that, but you are partly fairy type. Look, I will try to get you started, but it will take you a lot of practice and hard work, you understand? Yay, thanks Mr. Akasam, you are the second best psychic ever! The other Pokemon chuckled at the enthusiasm. Second best? Dare I ask who the best is? Whisper smiled, turned sly, as her eyes narrowed at him. You are looking at her. Kid, I think I'm gonna like you. Rosa's briefing continued. Torchic eventually hopped out of Yang's arms and found himself joining conversation between Gastly and Nox. I knew this group of humans was something else before I tagged along, Gastly was saying, but this is pretty nutty. Alien infusions? Really? Believe me, you haven't seen anything yet, Nox said with a faint laugh. Remember back at the mansion where I told you, boss, that Yang had bought Lucario? And we didn't believe you, I know. Gastly raised an eyebrow. Let me guess, that Lucario following the guy... with the sassy hat? Yup. We just proved I got the best trainer! Touching back. Did you see that way she trashed those goons working for Team Rocket? No? Yeah. No, I didn't see. Another Airbender reference. Gastly snickered as Torchic realized his poor word choice. I mean, you know what I mean. I don't know, and I don't think I have thought either of how I ended up with RWBY. Hey, this ought to be good, Gastly chuckled. Come on, we are all ears, even though neither of us has ears. So there was I, being chased through the forest by a giant bloodthirsty monster. Professor Oak had tapped his pen against the pad, scanning back through his notes as he absorbed the information. Alright, I believe we have enough for basic strategy. Turning into something actionable will take some more work, but we can provide this to the Elite Four and get the assistant to fill the details. We can go in for more detail about tactics and different kinds of perimeter later. He looked back up at the young woman who had provided the information. So in summary, our task is to protect the towns from attack, interdict the ultra-warm halls, and perform seek and destroy missions on the Grim that have already arrived. Tracer rubbed his chin, considering, doing all that will be a pretty tall order, especially with the Grendel around. He shifted uncomfortably in place, before hesitantly adding his own view. I'm half tempted to say something about how it couldn't be that bad, and how Blastoise or Nidoking could wipe them out, by the dozen without half trying, but then I can't help but remember how close some of those warped things got when we fought them in the woods. Riley nodded solemnly. We had a close call, like that in the Golden Valley as well. If Miss Rose hadn't seen the trouble we were in. There was an uncomfortable silence through a long moment. So what now? RWBY eventually asked. Well, the Elite Four won't be able to reconvene at the Indigo Plateau until tomorrow afternoon at the earliest. Oak said. They are rushing around quietly, spreading the word to appropriate the authorities, and investigate possible Grim sightings, as well as their noble duties. In the meantime, I really would like to speak with the four of you about your home, and about how you are acclimatizing to our home. The aged scientist smiled fondly, gesturing at the various Pokemon around the room. It looks like you have started going native, as it were, already. RWBY grinned back at him. You bet, Pokemon are so cool! You guys are so lucky to have them around instead of the Grim. And we would be delighted to discuss our world with you, Wise said, especially if you would be willing to answer a few questions yourself. For one thing, a few days ago Luca referred to my dust as ground-up evolution stones, and I was curious to see if he was correct. Of course, Oak said. Riley mentioned this dust substance in his report to the League as well. I would love to have a look at it myself, but I think those matters, fascinating as they were, can wait. There is another question I think is more immediately vital. Ignoring their curious looks for a moment, the professor picked up a phone and grabbed a pamphlet from a drawer. I don't know about the rest of you, but I haven't eaten anything before breakfast. What does everyone want on that pizza? On that note, I'm gonna order some food for myself. Because I'm hungry. So... yeah, that's it for today, I think. Also, I didn't like the last one. I want to go back to the last chapter. Which was Pokemon Out of You, and like it as well. I hope you had fun. Tomorrow we will continue at the same time. What day is it? It's gonna be Tuesday, Thursday. Yeah, we will have 2 more days of reading. Tomorrow and afternoon, and after that, 1 extra. And then we are gonna have some stopping point. I'm gonna disappear for at least 2 weeks. Sadly. And literally I wouldn't be able to record anything. because there's gonna be a cut in my mouse and I won't be able to talk. I would be able to talk, but that wouldn't look nice. So we will see when I'm gonna hear, but yeah, tomorrow at the same time and the day after tomorrow at the same time as well. I wanna see how long the next chapter is. 5.7k, 7.7k. We will see if we can do 2 chapters or not tomorrow. It will depend on how my voice is gonna hold up. But now I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna order some food for myself and see you next time. Bye bye.